It's an AFC West showdown in the late Monday night football game when the Chargers play the Raiders in Vegas. Allegiant Stadium just got done hosting Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford and will now set up another big-time showdown. Raiders are home underdogs. Maybe they can pull off what Bud did against Canelo as both teams look to join the 2-0 club. Back here with Ryan and Leger to talk about two teams who won in week one as underdogs, by the way, and looking to join that 2-0 clubs, which we talked about 78% of the time. If you get to 2-0, you get to the playoffs here. Ryan, I'm going to give you first word in this game here. What excites you most about these two teams? Again, early in the season, but what you thought coming into week one and what you expect from them here in week two.
Well, I'm excited to see if Justin Herbert is who we think he is. Can he have a repeat performance from week one? And I believe on some level, some degree that he will. And then from the Raiders side, I want to see if this defense is for real. They started off hot last week. They had 4 sacks. They were able to get pressure and get to the quarterback. And now I want to see if they can, because in order for them to win this game, they have to not only get to Justin Herbert, they got to get him on the ground and put them in long yardage situations.
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm excited because whoever wins this game is going to be in first place in the AFC West.
Right.
And when's the last time we could say that for the Chargers or the Raiders?
For now.
See, so I'm excited to see that. You see it right there. The Chiefs at the bottom of the barrel in the AFC West. But going back to Rand's point, right, we saw an explosive offense for the Chargers last week, and everybody assumed with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman knowing their mantra and how they want to be physical and run the ball, that's what they were going to try to do versus the Chiefs. It was the opposite. They gave the gambit to Justin Herbert, and he spun the ball all around the yard. And when he needed to, in the biggest plays where Patrick Mahomes has always, for some reason, been able to beat him, on 3rd and long, he's able to make some plays with his mobility, get outside the pocket, pick up a crucial first down, and secure the win for the Chargers. To Rand's point, when you look at this Raiders defense, there was a lot of question marks when it came to the cornerback position, right? Kaibu Kelly as a starter, also Darnay Holmes in the slot, and they brought in Eric Stokes. So a lot of people wondered, would this cornerback group be able to stand the test of time? Now, they did last week, but this is a well-balanced breakfast they're about to see this week versus the Chargers. I mean, people aren't talking about the Chargers pass catchers. This might be, I know people were saying the Bucks before the injury. This might be a top 3 group in the NFL, especially if Quentin Johnson plays like he did last week. I love what Lad McConkey did. And then Keenan Allen's just a savvy vet. He just knows how to find space in zone coverage, find the void in zone coverage, and then also Justin Herbert found him in the back of the end zone on a savvy out route for a touchdown last week. So that's the matchup, right? The Chargers receivers versus this young, kind of inexperienced Chargers group who Eric Stokes has played some football, Darnay Holmes, but these guys haven't been consistent starters in the NFL. That's the matchup I want to see.
So since you guys brought up Justin Herbert and that unit specifically, let's actually move the Justin Herbert conversation up here and talk about it right now. And Rand, again, I'm going to come back to you because he had the stats, which was great. More than 300 yards against the Chiefs. Went up against Steve Spagnuolo, especially against the blitz. 11 of 14, was really good against Spags. What do we think about what we're going to see tonight here? Patrick Graham and that defense. How much will we see the Raiders blitz, and how effective do you think it will be?
Well, I think on average, a Patrick Graham defense typically blitzes around the 25 to 27% range. That's kind of where he hovered. They were 26% in 2024. And then if you go back and look at their 2 battles last year, in week 1 and week 18, week 1, they kind of held Justin Herbert in check. Although the Chargers swept him last year, they held him in check. They blitzed 35.7% of the time in that game. Week 18, completely different story. They blitzed at 27, which is Patrick Graham's average, and Justin Herbert shredded them. So for Patrick Graham, it's finding that balance.
Correct.
And Leger will tell you this, and I'm forever quote our good friend Brian McFadden. When it comes to the untested secondary, a secondary with questions, the quickest thing and the best way is to have that front. Make it hot so the secondary can swat. And so it doesn't matter who you have in the secondary. If you're getting that pressure and the ball has to come out quick. Let's see if this Raiders defense can heat up Justin Herbert and force the ball to come out quick, and then we'll get to see if the secondary can make plays.
And this is the battle that I can't wait to watch, right? Because Joe Alt, people were questioning him moving to left tackle, and I had boots on the ground, and people told me even before Rashawn Slater got hurt, he was already cross-training to go left tackle. Let's not forget at Notre Dame, that's what he did. He was a left tackle, and he played out of his mind last week. And even Trey Pipkins played really well at right tackle. So if you're Patrick Graham, you have to be careful because this is a good offensive line for the Chargers. If you decide to blitz and you leave those receivers on the island with your corners, it could be what we saw with the Kansas City defense last week with Justin Herbert carving them up. So to Rand's point, by nature, Patrick Graham isn't a heavy blitz guy. He's more of a zone guy, and I think he feels playing more comfortable with these young corners playing more zone instead of actually manning up and bringing pressure. I think he's going to really rely on Thomas Booker and then also Mad Max Crosby to try to get Justin Herbert off his spot. That way he has a little bit more security blanket over the top of this defense. They're going to probably play more umbrella coverage and cover 2 to keep everything underneath. They want to make sure that you have to matriculate the ball down the field instead of blitzing and potentially giving up big plays.
I think Patrick Graham is somewhat of a disciple of Brian Flores. Yep. And both of those guys come from that New England tree who pride themselves on a defense to give you a variety of looks that can change from week to week to confuse what you want to do offensively. For me, the difference is going to be the Chargers establishing the run game because that run game is going to keep that defensive front honest. You won't be able to pin your ears back and be able to get the ball, get after the quarterback. Like I said before, in week 1, the Raiders had 4 sacks, and they were able to just pin their ears back. And they held that New England run game to 60 yards rushing and 3.3 yards a carry. In order for this game to be balanced and for the Chargers to be able to move the ball downfield and neutralize that front, they have to be able to establish the run game with more than just Justin Herbert running. These 2 running backs, Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton, have to get going.
That's good stuff. That'll be the game within the game as you guys are watching tonight, as these guys have laid out. By the way, Patrick Graham, the carryover from the old regime there when Pete Carroll took over out in Vegas, Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce, and even going back then in that New England tree that you talked about. So it's a rivalry renewed between these 2 division rivals, which we know, but it's also a rivalry renewed with the 2 head coaches, Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh, going back to their days in the NFL and in college. Here's Pete Carroll talking about going up against Jim Harbaugh.
What's your fondest memory of this rivalry with Jim Harbaugh?
I remember Jim. No, I don't. I have no fond memories. I'm not going to go there.
Of course not. Not when they were division rivals with the Niners and Seahawks, and of course Stanford and USC. Leger, what interests you most about this one?
I mean, these are 2 legendary coaches and then when you look at the AFC West period, like it's legendary coaches up and down the coaching tree. So when you look at it, these are 2 coaches that have done it at the pinnacle, not only in the NFL but in college. To your point, Tommy, Stanford and USC. So I just love that we have 2 legendary coaches battling out on a Monday night game. Where again, a lot of people thought this was maybe a rebuild year for the Raiders, but you know me, Tommy, I came out and said it early. I think the Raiders are going to be a tough out week in and week out because of Geno Smith.
Yeah, I mean, these 2 guys really bring to focus that term ball coaching Jesse. Yeah. These are 2 just football coaching guys that love ball, live ball 100% of the time. And not only that, they're culture builders and program builders. And like Leger said, they did it at the college level, they've done it at the pro level, and now they're in new places where they get to put their stamp on these teams. And what Leger said about the Raiders being a tough out is because of Pete Carroll and what he's going to be and for this organization. So that's what I'm excited. I'm excited because I know these coaches are going to bring their energy to their players, and that's going to make its way out on the field. So that's what I'm excited to see.
We just saw a graphic. It's his birthday today.
I was just saying, man, I might have to change my pick after seeing that it's his birthday.
He's out there like a 47-year-old, not like a 74-year-old. He's got that out there.
With the Air Pete's on, the Air Monarchs.
You know what I'm saying?
That only he can
Only
rock.
coaches rocking him with that bubble gum he chews.
We'll see if that pick then changes. But by the way, that key could be Brock Bowers, by the way. Interestingly enough, too, Leger, like Pete Carroll says, oh, yeah, Brock's going to be a big part. Brock this week was like, I'm still working my way back a little bit. So where do you land on Brock Bowers and how effective he'll be?
So it's interesting. He missed majority of the week of practice. Now, the good thing for the Raiders is they had an extra day because they play on Monday night. Now, he was in a limited basis. Now, we don't know what that means. And, Rand, you've been around the game. You could literally go out there and do maybe individual walkthrough, and they can put limited down. We don't know truly what that means as far as the health of Brock Bowers, and he's a major part of their offense. Went over 100 yards last week, and he's a mismatch. He's so much of a mismatch. They put Carlton Davis on him in that game. They put one of their best corners on Brock Bowers because that's the matchup he provides when you have him versus a linebacker or a safety. So this could be a big blow. Michael Mayer will most likely play a significantly bigger role this week, but this is Geno's favorite target so far early in the season.
Goes back to what we talked about, the matchups and how far this is gamesmanship.
Correct.
This is gamesmanship. No matter what, we know that Brock Bowers won't be fully healthy. But just his mere presence on the field or the Chargers not knowing how much he's going to play, you still have to prepare for
Correct.
that and create these packages on defense as if he's going to be out there, which again goes into the gamesmanship. So that's these two guys being the great coaches that they are.
Wrapping things up, another tight spread, although things could change. So 3 or 3.5 is what we're seeing. Leger here. What's the play for you?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers 3.5. Again, I think the injury to Brock Bowers, not knowing exactly how healthy he is. And then also, again, I have worries about the secondary for the Raiders. From what we saw with the Chargers, firepower on offense, I'm taking the Chargers to win this -3.5. Justin Herbert 6-3 versus the Raiders.
And I'm going to take the Chargers just scoring more points than the Raiders.
That'll work. That'll certainly work as well. We'll call it money line Rand for that one, guys. Certainly appreciate it on both sides of each Monday night football game. A reminder about what we're going to have this week on the NFL on CBS. Significant day in history for us as well. 50th anniversary of the NFL today. The groundbreaking pregame show that puts CBS's NFL coverage on the map. A lot of things honoring that crew. It should be a fun day, and it happens in less than a week.